Hello. Is this on? Okay. We're going to call this meeting to order because it's 5 o'clock and beautiful outside, so let's get it moving. Can we have a roll call, please? Do I have to? I'm sorry.
Here.
Tim Stone,
Present.
Nicole Matson,
Here.
Joel Paulson,
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
To approve. Second.
Do I need discussion? I'm sorry. Do I need discussion on the agenda? No? Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the agenda has passed. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the May 1 meeting?
Move approval. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. All right. Are there any citizens to be heard on any matters that are not on the agenda? You are on the agenda. You are. So you're talking about the request of Key Contracting LLC to rezone, is that?
Talking about key contracting wanting to rezone from residential owner-occupied to heavy industrial.
Okay, that item is on the agenda, so you'll have a chance to speak about that when we get to that item. Okay? Anybody else? Nope, okay. We have a public hearing, which is a request of R. Peterson for a variance to exceed maximum impervious surface coverage at 222 13th 6th Street. Before we get a motion to open the public hearing, if the applicant is not present, do we still have the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
In a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All of those opposed, we have none. Okay. Robin, can I have background information, please?
Sure, so I'd just like to point out, for this public hearing, the Planning Commission is serving as the Board of Adjustment and Appeals for the new people. Just, there's a little bit difference in your duties. For the variance, you are the final arbiter of this, so this does not go to City Council. Thank you, Chair Matson. This applicant is requesting this variance in order to build a slightly larger one-car garage on her property after a fire destroyed her existing garage. Whereas a variance is needed for the square footage, the new garage would correct a side yard setback encroachment, and she's only requesting an additional 156 square feet. She says she needs the extra space for storage and more room for 21st century vehicles versus the space that was previously built for 1950s vehicles. I would like to point out on table 4 of your packet has a couple errors that I thought about all weekend, but I couldn't correct because I had already sent the packet out. In the table for the overage for the proposed impervious, where it says 843, that should be 943 if you check the math. And then, so the overage difference between the existing garage and the proposed garage is 156, not 56. Staff is recommending approval, and that includes my comments.
Okay. Is the applicant present to address the commission?
She is not, she's out of the country, so
Well, lucky her.
yeah.
Okay, are there any citizens who wish to be heard on this application? It would not appear to be so. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move. Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Okay, can I get a motion on the item before we open the floor to discussion among the commissioners?
I'll move for approval, the variance request.
Second.
Okay, any discussion among the members of the Board of Adjustments?
Madam Chair? If I may, I don't see any issue here. I mean, the footprint really just looks like it's changing fairly minutely. And in fact, it's actually now meeting the setback requirements from the side lot. It doesn't look like there's any issue with the rear lot either. There looks like there's plenty of room to extend it back a little bit. So I see it as so minimal that it doesn't really appear to be much of an issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Paulson. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I agree.
Yeah, just agree with Commissioner Paulson's statements. I was thinking the same things, basically almost identical footprint, and new garage respects the setback, like he just said. Basically, I don't want to repeat everything he just said, but I just completely agree.
Okay, great. In that case, can we get a vote to approve the motion to approve the variance? All those in favor? Oh, wait a second. Ask for a vote on the motion. Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion passes. Okay, our next public hearing is the request of J.V. Haug and J. Hohenstein for vacation of easements within Prairie Meadows 6th Edition. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, say no. Robin?
Thank you, Chair Mattson. The applicants are requesting to vacate these easements in order to build attached twin homes versus the previous plan, detached homes. It appears that there's no public or private utilities impacted, and that concludes my comments.
Is the applicant available to address the commission if he or she wishes? We do not appear to have an applicant here. Any other citizens who wish to be heard about this application or the request for the vacation of easements? Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Okay, can I get a motion on the item so that we can have a discussion within the commission?
I would make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation on this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion by the members of the commission?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to ask staff, these easements, I'm assuming, are for drainage. Is that correct?
No, they are actually utility easements that run down the shared property line for the twin home. So nothing's been put in those easement areas yet.
Oh, okay.
There are drainage easements on the backs of these lots, but
Okay.
those will not be impacted by this vacation request.
I'm thinking, I know these easements on lot lines like this have been put in the past to accommodate storm sewer with like the inlets in the backyard. Is that still planned to, as far as just surface drainage? I'm sure engineering's probably okayed this, or?
Yeah, engineering has taken a look. There is actually a storm line, not on any of these lots, but you can't see it. I think it's the blue highlighted easement. If you go to the left, there's two lots. There's actually a 15-foot easement between those, and
Okay.
that was actually, we did discuss vacating that, and engineering said no, because there is actually a storm pipe
Okay.
in there.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, they're well aware. These shared line easements don't have anything in them.
Okay. And my second question, is there any current single-family homes built in this part of the subdivision?
I believe there are.
There are.
A few.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just starting. I mean, mostly it's vacant lots, but I think the developer owns quite a few lots, but Hohenstein has been purchasing lots, so he's planning on building mostly twin homes.
Okay.
But there are some individual singles too.
But all these lots that we would be splitting basically their vacant lots, and
Yes.
there's no single-family homes adjacent to them, is there? That's my only concern, is that somebody were to have moved in here under the assumption this was all going to be single-family homes, and now they're all going to be multifamily homes.
I think, can't say for sure for all of them. I think there is a single on these lots to the right of the blue highlighted
Okay,
easement. Those are larger lots, so I think those are they're either singles or they're planned to be singles. But they are zoned for everything. So if I was a homeowner, I would call my planning office or ask the developer, what are these planned for? Because they are zoned for singles and twin homes.
oh, okay,
Currently.
gotcha. Well, that takes care of any concern then, so, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Nothing else? Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor to approve the request of J.V. Haug and J. Hohenstein for vacation of easements within Prairie Meadows 6th edition. Let's get a vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Okay. The next public hearing is the request of Key Contracting LLC to rezone 1401 to 1403 28th Avenue North from residential low-density 0A to heavy industrial. Did I say that correctly? Okay. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of opening the motion, or opening the public hearing, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Okay, Robin, can we get the information, please?
Thank you, Chair Mattson. The applicant is requesting to rezone these two lots in the Oakport annexation area from RLD 0A, which is low-density residential, to heavy industrial. They plan on using the site for a construction business. The site is a former location of Oakport Township Hall. The current residential zoning is not compatible to the surrounding uses or our future land use map, which has it designated as heavy industrial. I didn't really dig too deep, but I don't know the history of why these two lots were zoned residential when you have a cemetery up here and American Crystal Sugar completely surrounding the site. I don't think anybody would probably build a house there. And the only other comment to point out was this location is pretty far from our existing sewer utilities, so they would have to do some on-site systems until such a time that the city would provide a connection. Staff is recommending approval, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Robin. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Robin before we move on?
Madam Chair? Robin, is there anything on these parcels right now?
Yes, there are two existing buildings. One of the buildings kind of crosses the property line, and one is built up right to the property line. So we may, if they want to do any improvements, we may request like a lot combination.
Okay.
One of the front building is like a metal kind of pole barn building. The rear building, it kind of looks like a screened-in porch a little bit. It's got windows around it, so I wasn't exactly sure. It's more of it looked like it had wood siding. I'm not sure what that was used for, but I would assume the town hall was in the larger building.
Okay, okay.
And then it is partially in the floodplain, kind of around where the creek is.
Sure.
So otherwise it's just they have some gravel parking area, but that's the only things on the site.
Okay. And is there one or multiple access onto 28th Avenue?
Just one.
Just one access, and that would maintain
would
one
remain,
access?
yep.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Any other questions for Robin at this time? Christy, you wouldn't happen to know the background of the zoning on this, would you? Just because you're sitting there and...
residential or it doesn't comply with the growth plan for that area, guiding it to heavy industrial. It just basically followed what the previous land use was.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Is the applicant here to address the planning commission?
They also had a conflict, Chair Mattson.
Okay. Are there any citizens who wish to be heard either for or against the requested action? Please step up to the podium and state your name and your address.
That's okay. Yeah, it was turned on, but
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Swede Stelzer, S-W-E-D-E-S-T-E-L-Z-E-R. I live at 2314 14th Street South, right across from Copesfield School. However, I'm here today as also one of the people on the Board of Directors of St. Joseph's Cemetery. I'm not protesting for our residents because they don't care. However, to clear up some of the historical questions you've all had, we used to shoot rifles up in that building. It was a rod and gun club. And it was Township Hall, but it wasn't being used as a gun club. And so it was kind of a multi-purpose type of thing. I was the EDA director when the city of Moorhead entered into the orderly annexation agreement with Oakport Township, and that building was residential at that time. It was from when Crystal Sugar first came in the early 1900s. It was never addressed as something that should be changed because it was not, it was a little, 4-acre piece of ground. It sits bordered by the lagoon on the southeast corner. It's bordered by Crystal Sugar on the southwest corner. But one of the critical things that's between it and Crystal Sugar, and Commissioner Haney probably is aware of this, I don't know if the other people are in the room. Have you ever heard of Snaky Creek?
Mm-hmm.
Snaky Creek is the south and westerly border of this piece of ground. I went up and took some pictures this morning because I didn't know how much homework you guys had time to do. There's a group of pictures that I took from the road and the ditch on the north side of this property. And essentially I stayed within 50 feet of the road to take the pictures. I took them south into what Key Contracting was proposing to use. And I did a 180 and went down into the ditch on the north side so you could see how Snaky Creek crosses under 28th Avenue and flows on north and dumps into the Red River. The significance of Snaky Creek is the stormwater drainage from Dilworth, from ditch 51, from ditch 50, which runs along BN's Railroad. All of that eventually gets into Snaky Creek, and it drains past this. Now, if you have a historical perspective of the Performing Arts Center out in Trollwood, back in the 90s, they had built several buildings for the Performing Arts School, and because of the weight on the ground, it was pushing down here, but in the middle of the Red River, it was coming up. And it's caused because we have what they call fatty clay soils in this river valley. What pushes down here is going to come up someplace else. Let me back up a minute. You're going from the lightest use, owner-occupied, low density. The OA is not 0A, it's owner-occupied, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And you're going from the lightest potential use to the ultimate heaviest potential use. They'll be able to use that land to store reclaimed concrete, asphalt, dirt, gravel, whatever they want to. It's all a permitted use in the heavy industrial zoning area. Now, if that comes up in the middle of the lagoons of Crystal Sugar, you're gonna have Crystal Sugar executives up here complaining. Or you're going to have Buffalo Watershed people complaining because Snaky Creek is being impacted. My thoughts are, I don't object to to key contracting moving in there. What my objection is are two. First off, we're spot zoning a particular small acre parcel within Moorhead to give it heavy industrial zoning. We've only got two industrial areas in Moorhead. One is McCarr Park, south of I-94, and the other one's the old Moorhead Industrial Park. They've got 10-ton roads, they've got 24-inch or 30-inch sewer lines, they've got heavy water lines in there. They're built for industrial zone purposes. This place, the only reason I would ever consider wanting heavy industrial zoning is if I'm in the construction business and I want to pile aggregate in there. I don't need it to park my construction equipment. I can go to heavy commercial. I think it's overkill for a second reason, which would be storage of aggregate or building materials or some such thing. I don't think we want to create spot zone heavy industrial plots around Moorhead. We've got roughly 50 acres in the McCarr Park that's available for sale.
Do you have a recommendation of what your ideal zoning would be for
I
that?
would say a commercial use, or, a C1, C2 use, they could park their trucks out there for that. If they wanted to build an office building for key contracting, they could do that. But the minute you get into the industrial rating on zoning, you're allowing, well, I'm sorry, but the film fiasco that Fargo had downtown at the Little Peep stores, they said that it had to go into the heavy industrial area so that it wasn't impacting kids downtown. You could put that kind of stuff in industrial areas. You just don't want the usage of an industrial zone area to be sporadically spread across the city. I think it's a totally misappropriate zoning category for that area. Not because of what Key wants to do with it, or they say they want to locate a business there. That's fine. Give it a commercial C2 rating or something.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, and can you just, I think we have someone else that wants to address the commission, but oh, he's with you. Do you have any comments that you'd like to add? Okay. Can I ask, do we know what key contracting, is there an issue with them wanting to put, aggregate or any other construction materials that we know of there?
As far as I know, no. But of course, once it's zoned heavy industrial, if that's a permitted use. The main issue is that this is floodplain, so there's going to be, special requirements if they're going to be changing anything in that area. They're also going to be required to meet like the floodplain development standards if they change anything on the site. So, storage of aggregate materials could be a concern. I mean, that's something that they didn't mention that. They were talking about storage of vehicles and, other construction materials, but they weren't talking that and I honestly don't know how big of projects that they work on, so that could be a future use. Just for point of reference, this is not spot zoning. The area to the west and surrounding it is also heavy industrial zoned. The area to the east is still considered transitional zoning because it was part of the annexation, but it's all American Crystal Sugar, which eventually would probably be rezoned to heavy industrial because that's what the land use plan, the future land use plan calls for. So, if you would like more information, you could certainly table this item to get questions answered at the next meeting, because I would say that's a valid point about storage of those heavy materials getting into the river. That makes sense.
Could we just personally, I think you make some excellent points. I would like to know more. I would like to have more information before we make a decision on this. I understand that that key contracting had a conflict this month, and if we could table it for next month, I would like to hear from them as well. And if they can't be here next month, I'm not sure how we would handle that. But for me, I would like to get more information from them. And I would also, could we do any more? Could you bring back some information about the pros and cons of potentially changing to a commercial use zoning, or is that a
We
possibility?
could, but then you would then also have to change the land use plan at some point, because when we do rezonings, we want our rezoning requests to be incompatible with our future land use, and the future land use map currently does say this is gonna be a heavy industrial area. If we did do a zone for these two lots to a commercial, that is spot zoning, because there's no commercial across the road or in the area. We can certainly take a look at it and have a discussion within our staff. The other thing is, because if you do rezone it to heavy industrial, you can't really put conditions on what's stored at the site. If it's allowed, it's allowed.
Right.
But I would like to maybe delve into a little more what the floodplain requirements would restrict what could be stored on site, because the floodplain is on the western part of the site. It's not the whole site, but we do consider if it's on the site, it's on the site. So if they're gonna, change anything on the site, those flood development permit or flood development standards are gonna be triggered. So maybe the applicant just needs to answer some more questions, because their application, they just said construction business.
If I could make a comment.
Sure.
2 points. She's absolutely right. Once it's zoned industrial, anything's fair game. Second thing is, if it does get zoned industrial, I think one of the requirements should be some geotechnical drilling to find out how much slump there is in the clay soils up there, so that if it gets zoned industrial and they load it in, that they're not ruining the lagoons for crystal sugar, causing them to breach. And then we got effluent from the lagoons draining out, or that they punch up the bed of Sneaky Creek, causing our natural stormwater drainage down a natural creek bed to change course, and who knows where that goes when that happens.
I mean, I think this is a fair concern, and I think we need more information before we can make a decision here. Does anybody disagree with that assessment?
No, I agree. The only thing I was going to say is that I agree. I think you make a Sweet, is it?
Sweet, yes.
Mr.
It's
Swede.
a nickname.
Sorry, I didn't know if that was your legal birth name. But
Be around here.
Yeah, not to, but to be, I mean, in my mind, Mr. Swede make a lot of good points also, but I guess assuming, like you said, that nobody's here to represent key contracting, and I'm just assuming that they would use it for storage. And the only reason I assume that they would be using heavy industrial is that there are the use that would not permitted in a commercial is what I would assume the reason they're going to that.
Can't store aggregate in a commercial
Correct.
area.
That is correct, and I'm sure there might be other, I don't know off the top of my head, the use is permitted in a commercial. And I would assume since it's construction, since a construction company is going for a heavy industrial use, there might be a certain amount of vehicle storage allowed on the commercial, and the type of vehicle storage and setbacks and all that stuff that I'm not aware of, that they might be more aware of since they're the ones requesting that land use change.
On a smaller scale, contracting does contract work for the city. When I replaced the approach in my driveway, I had to have key contracting do it because they were one of the two
Yep,
approved.
yep.
When they were occupying the land north of the railroad tracks on First Avenue North, where Cordell Motors used to be, where Critters and Seeds were in that little building, and then they were next to Minn Kota Recycling, they had small aggregate and dirt piles already building up there until somebody bought the property and is starting to lay it out now for an apartment building. So just in the short time they were there, they were already stockpiling dirt and aggregate. So that's why I say, if I wanted to store it, I gotta have an industrial zone piece of ground. If they only want to keep trucks and construction equipment there, they can be zoned commercial and be well within zoning requirements.
No, and that's why I agree with you to some degree, but, you know, typically for construction jobs, your materials are gonna go to the job site and not to the, right, well, sometimes, yeah, right. The city requires you to dump it or whatever. But yeah, so, that's why I agree. I think you should table it and hear from a representative of Key Contracting. So, but I agree with you.
Commissioner Haney, anything?
I think that those are all valid observations, and I think we should table it for that reason, till we find out more what their intention is, and if so, we may be interested in changing that commercial designation, or from heavy industrial to commercial designation for the zoning purposes. If they're just gonna have trucks and backhoes and things like that, that's fine. That's one thing. But if they've got a great big mountain, a summit, so to speak, it's a different story.
One of the things that we ran
Unless
into.
they're surcharging.
last April was out in the industrial park. Anheuser-Busch was making grade malt for a beer. The county and the city went jointly and required that Trash Depot had like a $5 million liability insurance policy. Because if that place would have caught fire, it would have contaminated the whole inventory of Anheuser-Busch's malting plant. And if they store product out here and all of a sudden Crystal Sugar's food grade products get contaminated because of it, that's another catastrophe that's gonna just be waiting to happen. So there's a lot more things at stake than just a piece of ground to be zoned for storage of aggregate. So,
And that one you were referring to next to Anheuser-Busch, wasn't that the mountain of tires?
yes.
Yeah, okay, right.
And it took us about 5 years once we started to get Coast Brothers to get rid of that pile of aggregate that was out there. It's gone, but now it's been replaced. Somebody says,
Okay.
Commissioner Paulson,
You know, I'll probably venture off the course a little bit here, but I think you bring up some very valid points. However, it just seems to me that this should be heavy industrial, considering it's surrounded by heavy industrial. I would maybe ask if the adjacent properties have any conditions on them. You know, I know the Clays very well in the Red River Valley, and I know your concern. But directly adjacent, you have the lagoons, and they have levees built up around the lagoons. Obviously, they were engineered levees. They got soil borings, and they were properly designed. Where in this case, we may be opening this up to allow them to bring in product, stockpile it, and it's not a design stockpile per se. I guess my line of thinking is if there were to be any damage to Snaky Creek because of actions of the adjacent landowners, they're liable for all liabilities created by that action.
if you're a corporation, there is no liability if they dissolve the corporation. You just have the assets of the corp that's liable.
Correct, but I think in this case, Key Contracting is a large enough entity that the liability.
Been around for about 15 years. They started out doing refinishing of garage floors.
Yep, I know. I actually,
I heard it the first time. They did an excellent job.
yeah, they are good company. But, I mean, we could sit here all day and try to come up with scenarios that could potentially happen to any piece of property, right, based off of what the land use is. But given that it's surrounded by hundreds of acres of heavy industrial already, and we haven't seen any major issues with soil movement on the adjacent properties, I get your concern with the stockpiling, and that would be my concern as well. But I think there's legal recourse to be able to fix any sort of deficiencies. And I don't think it's Key's intent to cause any problems. They know the soils better than anybody because they're digging in them all day long and they're building things and constructing things. I would be interested to hear what Key is ultimately going to use the piece of property, but I don't think it's the commission's ability to tell them they can't do something that is permitted by the zoning use, and especially since there's zoning use directly adjacent. Because what's to say Crystal Sugar closes their plant tomorrow, and then we have all this other heavy industrial, how do we limit people from being able to come in there and do what they can do in heavy industrial? But, so, I think it was great that you came. I think it's great that you brought up these points. We need to be concerned about these things. Anytime there's development adjacent to a waterway, we need to make sure that proper precautions are being taken. I'll throw this out because I think it's pertinent to this conversation. There's a neighboring town, I won't mention it, there's aggregate stockpiled within this town. And every time I drive by, the aggregate is washed into the ditches adjacent. It looks like there's very little control to stop surface water pollution from these aggregate storage piles. And that would be my biggest concern, is stockpiled material getting into Snaky Creek during a large rain event, something like that. But I'm confident that we must have provisions within the city that, well, I know the state has them. I mean, if that were to happen, they're breaking state pollution control laws, and they would be liable for the cleanup of that. But I don't know what the city of Moorhead would have on our ordinances that would protect the waterways that are adjacent to heavy industrial. I doubt we have anything. I don't know.
Well, I would say, our ordinances, our floodplain ordinances would preclude them from storing any of those materials on the area where the floodplain is, which is on the east
area
side of the site.
adjacent.
Maybe they still could store them on the east side of the site, but not the west side, because you can't put fill in a floodplain.
Well, one thing, though, that I've seen happen in the past is that a developer like this, or a builder like this, would build up the property, do a LOMAR, and take it out of the floodplain, which would then allow them to stockpile material directly adjacent to the creek, and would actually exacerbate the issue with soil movement, because you'd be adding more soil to the bank and then adding stockpiling material on there. And that's perfectly within their legal rights to be able to do that. And I think it would circumvent somewhat our floodplain ordinances. But there still needs to be some sort of design to prevent erosion into the surface water in a case like that. I'm guessing, well, I don't know, would they need an industrial stormwater permit for
Probably.
this site? And if that's the case, then their potential constructed offices or facilities would need to be approved by and permitted by the state of Minnesota, to make sure there's provisions to prevent this sort of erosion into the creek. So I guess the point I'm making is, I think they're valid concerns, but I think if something were to happen, there's enough legal entity and enough teeth on the books that would make them liable. Now, if they went belly up and went bankrupt and walked away from something, that's always a concern, obviously. But I don't know if the damages would equal, to that extent where the company would completely dissolve and walk away, right?
Control agency, the damages are horrendous.
They can, and the penalties can be very, very high.
The
And
gas station dug down, the contractor went down 80 feet to get rid of soil, or contaminated soils.
yeah, and that can cause a lot of damage.
A little grade quite a bit.
Correct. So I guess, I'm not entirely in favor of tabling this. It feels to me like it should be approved as heavy industrial just because of the adjacent land use. I think the feeling on the board is table it, so I'll go along with that, so.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Right.
Me too, and I think if we can prevent any problems by just having the conversation, that's a lot easier than worrying about liability on the backside, so.
Well, and if I may, Madam Chair, I don't think this is preventing them from operating. It's not preventing their operations by any means, correct? I mean, they're already
Table this?
storing, right. By tabling this, it's not holding them up from something that.
Well, they're not or they shouldn't be at the site right now because it's residentially zoned.
Okay, so
which-
they are out of compliance.
Yeah,
the
if they're
way-
already there, then they're out of compliance. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so that's a residential lot, which is not, that stuff is not permitted.
So given the city is considering this, would we take action on that over the course of the next month or?
Probably not.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a motion that we could make to ask the city to not take any action? I don't know if that's helpful
No,
or not. I mean, I don't know if you
it's-
need us
It's
to
up
do
to our
anything.
department to
Okay.
do that. So we know that it's a pending rezoning, so that's not gonna be, unless it's all of a sudden causing, like he said, a bunch of runoff into the creek all of a sudden, that's noticeable. But no, we would just kind of wait and see what happens with the rezoning.
Okay. So here's where I think we're at. I think what we need is a motion to close the public hearing and then a motion to table this item until the next planning commission meeting. Is that everyone else's understanding of where we are? Yeah? Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Can I get a motion to table this item until the next planning commission meeting?
Motion to table the key contracting's request to rezone current residential to heavy industrial.
Okay, second, anyone?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion is tabled until the next meeting. Thank you very much for your comments and your research. Is there any other business before the commission? It looks like we have a report on a new public hearing notice.
Thank you, Chair Mattson. I just wanted to point out that, starting with this meeting, the planning office started using a new public hearing notice, and this is just part of the city's efforts to further engage the public, to try to get people more involved with development. So we redesigned, we used to use a very, excuse the language, boring, legal notice with a map. So now this is a little, the one in your packet.
Yeah.
It's a little louder, and it just maybe if we could get one extra person to read it, that's probably one more than we had in the past.
Or when they show up and say, nobody told me about it.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. So just to bring that to your attention.
I
Thank
think it's
you.
great.
Thank you for your
Yeah, I
work
do
on
too.
that.
It's great.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do we need to vote on that? All those in favor, let's go, say yes. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, let's go.
You need a gavel.
I do need a gavel. I've been saying that for months now. Nobody listens.
Why don't we have, why doesn't our mayor have a gavel?
What's that?
Did she?
Don't they have those temporary
Yeah.
home